I could feel all eyes on me as I stood frozen in the middle of the grand lobby, my heart thundering painfully in my chest. "You stole my ring," the woman shrieked, her heels clicking with authority as she pointed a perfectly manicured finger at me. Mrs. CEO. The very definition of power, wealth, and intimidation. Around us, whispers rippled like wildfire, some eyes filled with shock, others with amusement, and a few with judgment I couldn't bear. I shook my head, desperate to explain, but the words died in my throat. This was supposed to be an ordinary day, a routine office meeting. Yet here I was, accused of theft in front of the entire company. My mind raced. How could this happen? Why me? As Mrs. CEO glared at me, her voice sharp and commanding, I felt an unexpected chill run down my spine. But before I could even attempt to defend myself, the lobby door swung open, and the air seemed to change. A tall figure appeared, commanding attention without even trying. My CEO husband. Calm, composed, and undeniably dangerous in his quiet confidence. His eyes locked onto Mrs. CEO, and in a voice that made everyone freeze, he said, "Don't touch my wife." That one sentence shifted everything. Suddenly, I wasn't alone. Suddenly, I wasn't just the accused. Suddenly, the world seemed to tilt in my favor. The tension in the room was almost unbearable as Mrs. CEO's eyes widened, disbelief flickering across her otherwise flawless face. She opened her mouth, clearly ready to argue, but my husband didn't wait for her. He stepped forward, his hand lightly brushing mine, a subtle gesture that sent warmth racing through my body despite the chaos around us. "I suggest you reconsider your accusations," he said, his tone icy yet controlled, leaving no room for argument. Whispers escalated around us, colleagues craning their necks to catch every word, sensing the brewing storm. I wanted to melt into the floor, but his presence anchored me, gave me courage I didn't know I had. Mrs. CEO's lips pressed into a thin line, fury simmering behind her perfectly made-up mask. She was used to controlling every situation, but this was uncharted territory. My husband's gaze never wavered from hers, and for a fleeting second, I felt invincible, shielded by the man I had quietly loved from afar. Then came the first sting of betrayal. A subtle smirk from a CEO worker, someone I had trusted, hinted that perhaps the ring had disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and rumors of my supposed theft had already taken on a life of their own. Panic began to bubble inside me, but I forced myself to remain calm, leaning subtly against my husband's side. The room held its breath, and then, as if on cue, Mrs. CEO's assistant appeared, holding a small velvet box. "This is the ring," she said softly, placing it on the polished counter between us. Time slowed. My hands twitched, wanting to grab it, wanting to prove my innocence, but the box remained there, unclaimed. My husband's eyes flicked to mine, a silent question passing between us. Should we reveal the truth now or watch the drama unfold and gather our advantage? I swallowed hard, my mind racing. Whatever choice we made next would change everything, not just for me, but for everyone in this room. I felt the weight of every eye in the room pressing down on me as I slowly reached for the velvet box, my fingers trembling despite the courage my husband radiated. Mrs. CEO's glare cut into me like ice, and I realized that her entire world had been built on control, and now it was crumbling right in front of her. Just as my hands hovered over the box, my husband's voice sliced through the tension again. Calm yet authoritative. "Step back." His command was simple, but it held a force that no one dared challenge. Mrs. CEO's lips curled into a sneer. But she obeyed, stepping back while fury flashed in her eyes. Slowly, I opened the box, expecting the ring I was accused of stealing to sparkle at me, and there it was, the unmistakable diamond gleaming under the lobby lights. Relief surged through me, but before I could breathe fully, Mrs. CEO's assistant spoke again, her voice quivering slightly. It was misplaced. Someone must have taken it by accident. The words felt like a dagger to my pride, though they exonerated me. My cheeks burned not just from embarrassment, but from the humiliation of standing accused in the first place. I glanced at my husband, who gave me a small, reassuring nod, his hand finding mine again, grounding me. But the drama was far from over. I could sense Mrs. CEO's mind working at lightning speed, her fury morphing into a dangerous, calculating smirk. I knew she wouldn't let this go. She wouldn't just disappear quietly, admitting her mistake. No, this was just the beginning of her schemes, her attempts to undermine me, to assert her dominance in ways I couldn't even imagine yet. And deep down, a thrill ran through me, not the excitement of conflict, but the knowledge that I wasn't powerless anymore. With my husband by my side, perhaps I could finally face her, navigate the tangled web of office politics, and maybe, just maybe, turn the tables on the women who had tried to ruin me. The following days were a whirlwind of whispered gossip, sideways glances, and calculated smiles. Mrs. CEO didn't speak to me directly, but the venom in her eyes was unmistakable every time our paths crossed in the office. I could feel her plotting, every glance a subtle reminder that my victory with the ring had only brought me temporary peace. My husband, meanwhile, remained a quiet pillar of strength, his presence a constant reassurance even when the world seemed intent on pushing me down. During meetings, his hand would brush mine under the table, a private promise that we were united, and in those stolen moments, I felt both powerful and protected. Yet, I couldn't ignore the gnawing fear in my chest. Mrs. CEO wasn't one to forgive or forget, and I had a sinking feeling she would escalate her schemes soon. That sense of impending danger became reality faster than I expected. One afternoon, I found a carefully crafted email waiting in my inbox, a malicious rumor about me, disguised as innocent advice from a colleague, painting me as someone unscrupulous, sneaky, and unworthy of respect. My stomach twisted, but before panic could take hold, my husband appeared beside me, silently reading over my shoulder. His eyes darkened, a storm brewing within them, and he murmured, "We'll handle this together." And that was when I realized the full extent of what this man meant to me, not just as a husband, but as a protector, an ally, the one person who could see through the lies and shield me from harm. From that day on, I vowed to face Mrs. CEO not as a frightened victim, but as someone who could fight back, someone whose heart was no longer hers to manipulate. The game had begun, and I was ready to play carefully, strategically, and with the quiet confidence of someone who had the strongest ally imaginable by her side, just when I thought the tension couldn't rise any higher. The next twist hit me like a lightning bolt. Mrs. CEO called an urgent meeting, her office door swinging open with the kind of dramatic flair only she could command. I walked in cautiously, aware of every pair of eyes in the room, and there she stood, flawless and intimidating as ever, a calculated smile plastered on her face. "I hope we can clear the air," she began, her voice smooth but laced with ice. I sensed a trap, yet something in her tone was different, less about the ring, more about me personally. And then came the bombshell. "I know your husband," she said, tilting her head slightly, her smile sharp. He's a man of power, yes, but also of secrets. Do you really think you know him? My heart skipped. What did she know? How much had she discovered about him, about us? I felt panic rising, but my husband's hand slid into mine under the table, a silent anchor of calm amidst the storm. I met her gaze, refusing to show fear, and said, I don't need to know everything about him, because I trust him. That's enough? Her eyes flickered, a hint of surprise registering, though she masked it immediately. The meeting ended with more questions than answers, leaving me unsettled yet strangely exhilarated. Something had shifted. Mrs. CEO was no longer just trying to humiliate me. She was playing a deeper game, one that involved secrets, manipulation, and perhaps even danger. I realized then that surviving this wouldn't just require courage, it would require strategy, patience, and the unshakable trust I now had in my husband. And as we left the office that day, his arm around me, I couldn't help but smile inwardly. Whatever she had planned, we were ready. Together, we could face anything, and I was determined to prove that no one, not even a Mrs. CEO with all her power and pride, could come between us. The days that followed were a precarious dance of smiles and subtle threats, but nothing could have prepared me for the next betrayal. One evening, as I stayed late organizing documents in the office, I noticed a familiar face lurking near the CEO's private elevator, a colleague I had trusted, someone I considered a friend. My chest tightened with unease as I realized they were clutching a folder with my name on it, their eyes darting nervously every few seconds. Before I could intervene, my husband appeared, as if sensing danger from a mile away, his presence commanding and silent. Without a word, he stepped beside me, his gaze slicing through the room with lethal precision. The colleague froze, then hastily backed away, mumbling excuses I didn't even hear. Relief surged through me, but it was fleeting. That night, as we left the office together, my husband's hand brushing mine, he finally spoke, his voice low and intimate. They'll keep testing us, he murmured, but you need to know. You're the only one I want protecting, the only one I'll protect. My heart skipped, a rush of warmth and desire mingling with the adrenaline still throbbing through me. I looked up at him, seeing not just the CEO, not just the powerful man the world feared, but someone who loved me fiercely, who had chosen me against every obstacle. In that moment, everything shifted. The office scheming, the lies, the accusations, they didn't matter. All that mattered was the quiet intensity of his gaze, the promise in his touch. And as we drove home together, the city lights blurring past, I realized I was no longer the frightened girl standing in the lobby weeks ago. I was a woman who had found her anchor, her protector, and her love, and nothing, not even Mrs. CEO, could change that. Just when I thought we had a moment of peace, Mrs. CEO struck again, and this time, it was personal. I arrived at the office one morning to find a meticulously crafted display in the lobby, rumors printed on glossy posters, subtle digs at my character, and insinuations about my relationship with my husband. The entire company buzzed with whispers, some colleagues smirking, others clearly uncomfortable. My chest tightened, but I refused to let panic take hold. My husband appeared beside me, as always, his presence like an invisible shield. Without a word, he took my hand and led me into a quiet conference room. Let her play her games, he murmured, his voice steady but charged with quiet fury. We'll handle this together. And that's when I saw the first cracks in Mrs. CEO's armor. Despite her public show of control, she had underestimated us. Slowly, carefully, we began turning the tables. I started gathering evidence, documenting every malicious act, while he ensured our position remained unassailable. The tension escalated with every encounter, and yet, amidst the chaos, our connection deepened. Late nights spent strategizing turned into subtle touches, lingering gazes, and moments of unspoken affection that made my heart race. One evening, as we reviewed the latest of her schemes in the empty office, he leaned closer, brushing a strand of hair from my face and whispered, "No one will ever hurt you again. I promise." My pulse quickened, and I realized that the thrill of victory wasn't just about exposing her, it was about claiming my life, my love, and my happiness. And when the day came to confront her directly, I was ready, not just as the accused, but as someone who had found strength, courage, and an unshakable partner in the man I now called my husband. The confrontation came sooner than I expected. In a sleek, glass-walled boardroom that overlooked the city skyline, Mrs. CEO sat at the head of the table, poised and smug, as if she had already won. But as I stepped forward with my husband at my side, I felt no fear, only determination. We presented the evidence we had meticulously gathered: emails, security footage, and witness statements that proved not only my innocence but also her repeated attempts to manipulate and humiliate me. Her eyes flickered with panic, and for the first time, I saw the cracks beneath her carefully constructed facade. She tried to deny it, of course, her voice rising in desperation, but my husband's presence was a silent, undeniable force. "Enough," he said, his tone cutting through her lies like steel. "The truth is clear." The room went silent. Colleagues who had whispered and watched from the sidelines now stared, some in shock, others in admiration. Mrs. CEO's arrogance faltered, and finally, with a resigned huff, she left the room. Defeated yet simmering with silent rage. Relief washed over me, but it was more than relief, it was triumph, vindication, and freedom all at once. I turned to my husband, feeling the warmth of his hand in mine, the steady beat of his presence calming every lingering fear. "We did it," I whispered, my voice trembling slightly with emotion. He smiled, the kind of smile that made my heart skip, and pulled me into a quiet embrace. "No one can ever take this from us," he murmured. And in that moment, surrounded by the office that had once been a battlefield, I realized that life, love, and trust had all been restored, and that we had emerged stronger, united and unstoppable. With Mrs. CEO finally out of the way, a sense of calm settled over my life. But it was different now. It wasn't the naive peace I had once longed for. It was earned, hard-won, and deeply satisfying. The office that had once felt suffocating now felt like a place where I could breathe, where my voice mattered, and where I could walk without the shadow of fear following me. My husband and I grew closer with each passing day. Our bond strengthened not just by love, but by the battles we had fought together. Small gestures, a brush of the hand, a knowing glance during a meeting, whispered words at night reminded me that our love was private, sacred, and resilient. One afternoon, as we overlooked the city from his office balcony, he turned to me, eyes serious but soft, and said, "You've grown so much through all of this. I'm proud of you." I laughed softly, feeling the tension of months melt away. "I couldn't have done it without you," I admitted, squeezing his hand. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just him who had made me strong. It was the trials, the betrayals, and even the fear that had once threatened to break me. Each obstacle had shaped me, sharpened me, and made me appreciate this love even more. Together, we weren't just a power couple in the office or a subject of gossip. We were partners in life, united against the world and in support of one another. And as the sun dipped below the skyline, casting golden light across the city, I felt a deep, unshakable certainty. No matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, and our love would endure. Unbreakable, untouchable, and fiercely ours. As the weeks turned into months, life finally felt like it had found its rhythm again. The whispers and sideways glances faded, replaced by genuine respect from colleagues who had witnessed everything. Mrs. CEO's absence left a strange emptiness. But it was a relief, a reminder that power wielded without integrity is always temporary. My husband and I thrived not just in the office, but in life outside it. We celebrated quiet victories, shared stolen moments of laughter, and built memories that no scheme or rumor could ever touch. And yet, there was a thrill in knowing that we had faced challenges head-on, together, and emerged stronger, closer, and more in love than ever. Sometimes, late at night, I would think back to that first day in the lobby, when accusations and fear had threatened to undo me. I would remember the weight of judgment, the sting of humiliation, and the sudden surge of hope when he appeared, declaring me his own. It all seemed like a lifetime ago, yet it shaped everything I had become. Now, as I sit beside him, hand in hand, watching the city lights shimmer like scattered diamonds below, I know this. Life is unpredictable, love is a battlefield, and trust is everything. But with him by my side, I am unstoppable. And though challenges may come, I am ready not just to survive, but to thrive, to love, and to claim the happiness that is undeniably, irrevocably mine. After all, some stories are about more than rings, rumors, and revenge. They are about love that conquers all, a love that says firmly, passionately, without question, this is ours. That's all for today, folks. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.